Hello everyone. So in this session we are going to study the agents of pollination. In the last session we talked about the pollination. So the pollination is transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or the other flower, and of the same plant species or the other plant of the same species. You have to recognize or you have to remember that one. So in this session, we are going to study or we are going to concentrate on the agents of pollination. The agents of pollination, there are two types. One is biotic and one more is abiotic. So first we will start with the abiotic agents of pollination. Let me write that one. Agents of pollination, two types. One is abiotic and the second one is biotic. As I told you on that day, here only two types of abiotic agents involved in the pollination, that is wind and water. So first we will start with the wind now. The wind, there are number of angiosperms plants are there in the nature. Maximum of or the majority of plants dependent or they use wind as an agent of pollination in abiotic pollination or abiotic agents. So the wind is it plays a main role in the abiotic agent of pollination. Here the plant which use wind as a pollinating agent, it has adopted itself or it is having some unique features in this, like unique features in sense the pollen grains of the plant which use wind as an agent of pollination, those pollen grains will be light in weight and they are non-sticky, and the stamens are exposed to the nature. It means the stamens are highly exposed. Think this is the flower, the stamens will be like this. It means stamens exposed, and the stigma here it is feathery in nature like this, and it will be wavy so that the stigma can trap the pollen grains coming from the wind. So these are the unique features of plants which use the wind as an agent of pollination. So with this we will talk about one example is there for this wind. One is corn. You just remember this as a corn plant, and one more plant is there, that is grasses. So the grasses and corn plant. So these are the two plants we are giving two examples in the wind pollinating or wind pollination. So coming to the water pollinating agent, so here the plants, very rare plants of angiosperms use the water as an agent of pollination. Why? Because I'll tell you why. Only 30 of the genera of angiosperms use water as a media for the pollination. But in the class 11, we talked about the lower plants. Lower plants in sense algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes. So these are all the lower plants. The very first thing I would like to, I used to tell by describing the characteristic feature of these plant is habitat. If you remember the habitat of those lower plants, they will be moist, shady, or maximum of them found in the water bodies. So, being in water, those plants, which plant? Lower plants use the water as a media for the pollination. And now coming to the, I'll write here the algae, bryophytes and pteridophytes. They release their male gametes to the water body, and the female flower traps those male gametes and achieves the pollination. And the pollination, let me tell you one thing, the pollination, the transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma, this is a purely chance factor. Maybe or may not be. Though that's why the pollen grain releases many in number. If one pollen grain fails to sit on the stigma of the flower, the next is ready to fertilize or to pollinate. But ovule is only one in number, but the pollen grain will be many in number. If the pollination does not take place, if it fails to, if the pollen male gametes of these lower plants fail to sit on the stigma of the female flower, the next will be ready. But the chances are less in the water pollinating agent. Like but that is why here these generations are less in number. Okay, so that is the reason the angiosperm do not adapted themselves to use the water as a pollinating agent. Okay, so that's all about the abiotic agent. Let me tell you, let me give some examples in water agent or water pollination, or some examples if we study in this. One is, I'll write here the examples which comes under, or those plants which use the water as an agent of pollination. So the one is Vallisneria and Hydrilla. These are the fresh water bodies found in freshwater bodies. And one more plant is there, zoster. So this is the plant found in marine water bodies. So by giving examples, we are going to study the characteristic of features of Vallisneria and also the zoster. Okay, so I'll draw the Vallisneria plant here. Think this is the water media, a pond or a lake or a river, whatever you think, water body. From this point, the Vallisneria arising, and it has a long linear tape-like leaves, and the female flower of the Vallisneria reaches to the surface of the water body. Think this is the surface of the water body. The Vallisneria female flower reaches to the top of the water body, and the male flower liberates or releases the male gametes. By means of passive water current, the male gamete should reach the female flower or to the stigma of the, so this is the female flower of Vallisneria, which is on the surface of the water body, and male flower, when it releases the male gamete by means of passive water current, it has to reach the female flower. You can ask me, or if you have any doubt like why you have drawn only one plant, why not one more plant, so that this flower male gamete can reach the female flower of that stigma. Chances are there. Only one plant I am drawing here to explain you. That's it. Chances are there. If this plant, if this flower releasing the male gamete, if this male gamete reaching to the female gamete of the same plant, that type of pollination is known as geitonogamy. Okay, nothing, that is not the big issue. I am just explaining how the water body transfer the pollen grain from the anther to the stigma. So this is one thing, or this is the one example found in the freshwater bodies. Now coming to the zoster, here the female plant or the female plant will be submerged in the water, and the male gametes coming by means of water current, passive water current. The water current brings the male gamete and it reaches to the female flower stigma. Note down, the zoster pollen grains, they will be, or the stamens will be long, ribbon like, so that it will become easier to get deposit on the stigma of the female flower. So that's all about the examples of Vallisneria and zoster. These are the examples which use the water as an agent of pollination. Now one more plant is there. You might have remember or not, I don't know about that. In the chapter number 1, I showed you one plant, that is water hyacinth. So the water hyacinth, being in water, this is the hydrophyte. Being in water, it do not use the water for pollination. Why? Because think this is the leaf and the flower, it will be long enough. It will be long. It won't be at the surface of the water. It won't be submerged inside the water. It will be a very long flower, and that flower do not use the water as a pollinating agent. Then what is that media, or what is the pathway how the flower releases, or how the anther releases the pollen grain, how the pollen grain sit on the stigma of the flower. So here this plant, being a hydrophyte, do not use the water. Instead of water, it is using the insects and wind. Okay, so that's all about the abiotic type of pollination. So in that we studied wind and water, and don't forget the examples here, and in the both don't forget the wind example and the water example. With this we'll move on to the biotic type of pollination. So the biotic type of pollination, it includes the insects, bees, butterflies, and wasps, ants, and then some arboreal mammals and squirrels. Yes, squirrel is also a media to transfer the pollen grain from of one plant to other plant. Bat, monkey, and yes, majority of these type of abiotic agent, majority of them. So these are ants and wasps and squirrel, bat, monkey. These are the only limited version you can call it as. But here bees or butterflies, they play a main role or dominant role in the abiotic agent of pollination, where it can transfer maximum pollen grain of the species from stigma to the from anther to the stigma of the flower. So we'll study the characteristic features of those plants which use bees and butterflies as an agent of pollination. The flower will be rich in nectar. As you know, the characters, it will be very colorful and fragrant and yes, we'll study these features. Now, what is rich in nectar? So because of this nectar and because of this fragrance, maybe or may not be, some plants or some flower, they only bear or they only releases nectar, but and in some species of flower they will be having only fragrance. We'll come to that later. So I'm telling you the features of the plant flowers which use insects, that too bees and butterflies, as a agent of pollination. So as I told you, they will be rich in nectar, they will be colorful, and they'll be having fragrance in that. So because of this, because of the fragrance, because of the attractive colors, the insects get attracted to those kind of plants and they sit on the petals of the flower to suck the nectar. Because what happen if they're sucking the nectar, the pollen grains get attached to the body of the bees, and after that, after sucking the nectar of one flower, it will fly and it will sit on the one more flower. There they can shed the pollen grains of one flower to the other flower. So this is the pollination, and after that it achieves the pollination, achieving the pollination. Few plants are there, few plants like Amorphophallus. So this is the largest flower in the world. What is the role of this Amorphophallus? Why it comes in the agents of pollination? This Amorphophallus, so we were talking about the features of plant, right? In the features of plant, what I told you the plant flower will be rich in color, they'll be releasing some fragrance or they'll be having nectar. Because of that, the insects come and suck the nectar, so and so, so and so. Not only all those, some plants are there, some species are there. They not only gives the nectar, they not only attracts the insects, but also they give shelter to the insects. If the flower is giving a shelter to lay the eggs of this insect, The insect do not leave the flower. It will be remain in the flower, like if it lays the eggs in the flower ovule of the remember the shelter, what I am telling you, that will be ovarian locule. Okay, so in the locule, ovarian locule, like I'll tell you that also, the Ecca plant ovarian locule gives shelter to lay the insect eggs. And I'll mention the insect name also, that is moth. Yes, the moth lays the eggs in the locule, ovary locule of yucca plant, and this yucca plant, when it comes to to become a seed, the eggs which is present in the locule, it will hatch and it will leave the place. Remember that also. And this is a type of pollination. Without these two, like moth and then yucca plant, they both interdependent on one another. It is dependent to the yucca plant. Why? Because it is giving shelter. The yucca plant dependent on the moth. Why? Because it is pollinating its pollen grain from one to other. Okay, so that's all about the agents of pollination. Quickly, we'll study one more concept in this, that is outbreeding devices. So what is outbreeding devices? The outbreeding devices, these are the devices which controls the self-pollination. The self-pollination controlled. So let me tell you, let me introduce you some new word in sense why we want to study, why it is necessary to study about the outbreeding devices. So here is the answer. Few plants, few species or few plants, if they are undergoing repeated self-pollination, if the self-pollination continuously occurring in a plant, those plants maybe it undergo inbreeding depression. So what is inbreeding depression? The inbreeding depression is progressively decline of characters. Progressively decline of characters in sense, for example, I'll take one example here, a pea plant. A pea plant having a pea pod, a very attractive pea pod I'm having here. If this plant continuously self-pollinating, after some time it undergoes inbreeding depression. It means progressively decline of characters. The pea pod having attractive size and color, maybe it reduces its character or size of the pea pod, the color will be dull. So the characters will be progressively decline. Why? Because of the self-pollination. That's why, or that phenomena or that mechanism is known as inbreeding depression. To discourage this inbreeding depression, the plant itself forms some outbreeding devices. The outbreeding devices, there are 4 devices are there. Remember here, 4 devices are there. The first one is synchronization. Synchronizing. So what is synchronizing? Most of the angiosperms are bisexual. As you know, it means in a flower both male and female gamete produces. Okay, so what we are talking about, a natural way of controlling the self pollination. Why? To reduce the inbreeding depression. Inbreeding depression is nothing but progressively decline of characters. How? As I told you, majority of the angiosperms are bisexual. If the synchronizing do not occurs in a flower, what is that? If a flower which bears both gynoecium and androecium, the timings, if the timings vary, if the ovule forms first before releasing the pollen grain, if the pollen grains releases faster before the embryo get mature, so this is the synchronizing. Just think, if the ovule is not ready at all, if the embryo sac is not ready to receive the pollen grains cannot, it is not possible to penetrate inside the ovary. So what we'll do here, this pollen grains, released pollen grains will dehisce, or it will move on to the other flower or other species of plant. So this is the synchronizing between the pollen grain and the stigma or the embryo sac. One thing, this is the natural way of avoiding the inbreeding depression. That is nothing but outbreeding devices. So synchronizing. And second device is there is no much like the placement of stigma and pollen grain differ. Like what that mean? I'll come to the flower again. Think this is the, what is this? Stigma, and petals will be here somewhere it will be. We need only the stigma and anthers or the stamens. So the first one is synchronizing, as I told you. Second one is the placement of stigma and pollen grains. Placement of stigma and pollen grains, it means if the pollen grains or the androecium will be far away from the gynoecium, the distance between these two, if it become more, the pollen grain cannot deposit on the stigma of the same flower. Remember, the synchronizing or the stigma of the pollen grain, these are, it only controls the autogamy. We can't give a guarantee to the getonogamy. Getonogamy in sense transfer of pollen grain from one flower to the other flower of the same plant. Chances are there, if one flower do not synchronize with the same, if the pollen grain do not synchronize with the ovary, the pollen grain will dehisce and sit on the other flower of the same plant. So it only achieves in the autogamy, but we cannot guarantee to the getonogamy. And the placement is also, it will remain same. It achieves only the autogamy. It is not guaranteed to the getonogamy. And after that, got it, the placement of stigma and pollen grain, if it become far away, the pollen grain fail to deposit on the stigma of the same flower. The third device is self incompatibility. Self incompatibility or pollen incompatibility, it refers to some genetic composition. Here the pollen grain or the stigma, it won't achieve or it won't receive the pollen grain of the same flower. And the third device is also there in the outbreeding devices, that is, fourth device is, you might have seen some unisexual flower in the angiosperm. Unisexual flowers in sense, male flower bears or male flower produces in one plant and female flower produces in one more plant. So that different part or the different sexes produces in different plant is known as unisexuality. Here it become a very good outbreeding devices. Here the self pollination cannot occur, those unisexuality outbreeding devices. Example, if we see, one is papaya, palmyra. So these are all the examples and outbreeding devices we studied in this session. Remember, outbreeding devices, they have asked for 5 mark I guess or 2 mark I guess. Don't leave any of these concepts. Okay, so and remember, after this session, we'll study the pollen pistil interaction. Okay, thank you.